Hello everybody, Debbie here and welcome back to my craft room. So the video that I'm going to work on now is, it's been a request. I had somebody ask me what an ATC was. So because I've been posting, I belong to a group where we trade them. And ATC stands for Artist Trading Card. So what I'm going to do is show how I make an artist trading card from start to finish and giving all the specs and showing how I do it. And it will, it'll explain how it's done, why it's done, and what we use them for. So what I have here is just a piece of cardboard. It's just a piece of cardstock, just chipboard. And it's thick enough to use for an artist trading card. Now they can be done on a good quality watercolor paper or a piece of chipboard, or you can actually buy prepared ATC cards that are the right size. The proper size of an ATC being 2.5 inches by 3.5 inches. And what they are is tiny pieces of art, and they're made in a trading card size and traded back and forth amongst artists so that we can share each other's art in a small way. People, you can give them out as gifts to friends. You can. What they are is they're created tiny piece of art, and they're meant to give away. They're not meant to be for sale. So you don't sell an artist trading card, you trade it, much like a hockey card, sports cards, any of those different types of things. I like to be thrifty when I'm creating any of my art, so I will just make mine on any piece of chipboard, cut up cereal box, anything like that, because basically that's what they are. Packaging is made out of chipboard, and that's fine. So what I do to prepare it is I will just layer it on both sides with some gesso. In this case, I've got some Liquitex clear gesso, and I'll just put some on the surface. Now what gesso does is it will prepare the surface so that paints and inks and stuff like that don't sink in, so that they it's like putting an undercoat on a painted wall, basically, for somebody that's not an artist. This is how I prepare the surface so that it will take any kind of mixed media. So you can see that this is soaking, you can see the change in the color in this already, that it's soaking into the cardboard. But what this does is it will make the surface of the paper a little bit rough. It gives it tooth. Like right now, I'll use here on this piece here. If I run my fingernail on this piece here, you can tell it's smooth. Okay. When this is dry, I'll run my fingernail across it again and let you hear what it sounds like, and you can tell it has tooth. The same as priming a piece of furniture before you paint it, or priming a piece of drywall, or a wall of drywall before you... There, that's got a nice even coat all over. And that pen's running, but that doesn't matter. It'll just soak right in, or it'll seal it right in. So I'm going to turn this over. Actually, I'm going to look for... I'm just going to look around here. I think somewhere around here I have a tray. I wonder what I've done with it. It's not that the gesso will hurt this tabletop, but I have it's a rack. I forget where it came from, something from the kitchen, but it's a rack, and I will sometimes put a piece of art paper or something on top of it when I want both sides to get air and dry. There, now I'm giving this a really good coat. There. And that has to dry. And once it's dry, I can put paint on it. I can collage on it. Glue will stick to it. I can, well, there's numerous different things that I can do to the surface of this. So I'm going to let this dry and I'll be right back. Okay, so that's pretty much dry. It's dry to the touch. And feel, or not feel, you can't feel it, but here. It's very matte. It almost feels like there is, it almost feels like there's a fine layer of sand that's not really sand, but that's the closest thing I can think of to explain it. But what it does is it gives it tooth. It gives it something for the glue and the paint and the other mediums to stick to. So my next stage is I've grabbed just some papers out of my scrap paper box in some blues and yellows. And I'm just going to rip these up, and I am going to stick them on here to make a background. That's how I'm going to start my background. And I think I'll just use gesso to glue them on there. Or no, I'm going to use Mod Podge. It's a medium that we all know if we craft, or most of us do anyway. And you can use a gel medium. You can use a homemade gesso. You can use pretty much anything that you want to glue your papers down. It's a matter of personal choice, I think. I would use some gel medium, but I'm out right now, so gesso's fine, or the Mod Podge. You don't have to make these edges even like I'm trying here, just because I've got a straight edge on my paper. I thought I'd put them around the outside, but you can just overhang them like right here where it's overhanging. I'll just go along with my scissors later and trim it off. When you're gluing your papers down, make sure you put a layer of glue over top of these papers before you put the next piece on, or it won't stick. And you want to make sure that there's a good layer everywhere, because you don't want any of this peeling off, because your artwork is going to be on the top of this. So all this is really doing is giving my background some texture by collaging all this paper on here. Now I'm going to do 2 or 3 different things to create texture. This is just the first step. So I'm not going to make you watch me do the whole thing. I'll shut this off and I'll come back when this is done and dry and I'm ready for the next stage. You kind of get the point. I'm going to cover this whole page up with paper all overlaps to give it this nice texture. And I'll be back when I'm done. Okay, that feels dry. It's dry to the touch. Now, one of the things that using, look at this paper now. It is pliable. It almost has the feeling of a cheap vinyl. But what's happened with it is I've changed the structure of the paper. When I added the gesso and it soaked through, it gave some strength to it. And when I've added the other papers on top and then added the Mod Podge, it gives it strength. It's hard. You have to feel it. You have to do it and feel it to get it, kind of. But it does. It gives it strength. So what I'm going to do now is add some visual texture. I can feel the texture of the papers on here, and all of this color is nice. But when I'm done with this, when I'm done adding my color and my paint and my whatever it is that I decide to add to this, when it's done, I may not even be able to see any of this, or I might just be able to see hints of it through. And if I do, I want it to be even more interesting than this. So I'm going to add some stamping, and I'm going to use my archival ink because it's acid-free and permanent. And when I paint over top of it, I don't want all the color to smear. And I think I'm just going to use a variety of different things. I've got this XO stamp that's kind of cool. And so I think I'm just going to stamp it in a few places on here, in no particular places. I'm not doing anything on purpose. I'm not trying to keep anything straight. I just want that, like if I went across the page like this, it would kind of give it the look of script underneath. So, and don't forget when you're stamping to go off your page a little bit, because when you cut this up and you've made your ATC cards, they're only 2.5 by 3.5 inches. You don't know what part of this is going to actually be on the card and what's going to be gone. So I'm going to do a little bit of this stamp too, because this is a really pretty little scroll butterfly flower. It's just a pretty little stamp, but what I like it for is it gives me some of those nice lines. And once again, I have a small shoebox with stamps in it. I have a few. I buy a new one every once in a while, and I'm not being very careful with this. As you can see, that smeared a little wee bit, but I don't care. It's going to be in the background. There, it's pretty. There, once again, I do things on the cheap. These are the cling stamps that go on a sheet of acrylic, but I bought 10 of these little plastic picture frames. They had a magnet on them, and they were to put a picture in and stick them to the front of your refrigerator. And the magnets, I just took the magnets off, and I use these for all kinds of things in my art room and in my craft room. I use them particularly for these stamps because the acrylic blocks, once again, are quite pricey, and I have a little one in there. I don't have one big enough for this stamp. I have a little one in there that I bought when it was on sale, and the next time I see one on sale, I might buy. I'm looking for a bigger one on sale, of course. So, but see what's happening when I'm doing this. I think I might do this one too. And it's just a music script. And you don't have to use stamps. You don't even have to have any stamps. Just, suppose you just had a piece of bubble wrap. You could ink up your bubble wrap and put lots of perfect little circles down on here. And you could use anything that has texture. And I'll show you an example here. I have... This is a teeny tiny little piece of Lego. But watch what happens when I ink this up. I get dots. Oh, it's not holding the ink very well right now. Let's see if I can do it right here. There, see, I get dots. So, when I first did my ATC cards, I didn't even have any stamps. I just used, let me see. I had some of these when I was crafting with the kids. What does this one say? I don't even know what this one says. Let's stamp it and see, because I'll cover it up anyway. Oh, it says keep reading, and it has a book and a worm on it. Or keep trying, and it has a book and a worm. Yes. But these were little, they're sponge stamps. And when I did daycare, I crafted with the kids, and we had a whole bunch of those little sponge stamps that came in a big package from the dollar store. And when I started crafting on my own, that was all I used for the longest time. So you really don't have to go out and spend a bunch of money on stamps. Buy the odd one here and there when you see them on sale for just a couple bucks, and start building your store up over a period of time. So I'm going to put my stamps away, wipe them off, and get something else out and show you how I'm going to add even more texture to this. Okay, that seems to be good. I've put my stamps away. This isn't glued down very good right here in the corner. I'm going to have to get that. And I'm going to show you another way to add some texture to this. So I have two little stamps. This one has like a little random flower leaf pattern on it, and this one's got some diamonds. And the reason I've grabbed these ones and not something with a bigger pattern in it is because when I cut these up, the cards are not going to be much bigger than the size of a credit card. I mean, they're the size of a hockey card. So when you add texture, if you put something with a big overwhelming pattern onto your paper and then you cut it up, you may have one big piece on a card, and then that's not really creating texture. It's just creating two levels. So this, on the other hand, which I will just put on, so what I'm using here is my DIY molding paste, and I've made it from a recipe that I found online, and there's lots of them out there. You can just Google there. So and I'm not trying to create any specific patterns or anything like that. I'm just trying to get some textures throughout there. And when this dries, of course, this is going to be raised and it will create the nicest texture. So I'm going to try this diamond one as well. Now I'll put some of it up here. Yes, that's cool. There, I didn't have quite enough on my card. And basically what this is some plaster of Paris, some white acrylic paint, some just white school glue. I can't even remember what everything's in it, but I will look it up and I will share that recipe. Maybe the next time I use this. A little bit over here on the edge. And over here on this edge too. There. I'm just going for coverage. I'm not trying to create any patterns or anything like that. What I'm hoping for is that when I cut these up, there'll be a little bit of this texture, a little bit of all this texture on each card. So I'm once more going to take a break. This takes a little while to dry, and we can't do anything until it is. Now, I could take the heat gun to this, but I found that it dries on the surface when I take the heat gun to it, but it's still wet underneath. So then if I apply any pressure doing anything, it will still smear it. So I'm just going to clean up my table, clean up my stencils, and let this dry. And I'll probably let it dry overnight. It's quite late right now. I think the hockey game's almost over. Hubby's got to be done watching that soon. And I'm going to lift this up and show you if I can. Can you see all that yummy texture on there? And that's going to be so cool when it goes to take the colors. So yeah, I'll be back in the morning and I'll finish this project then. So have a good night, everybody, and I'll see you in a few. Bye-bye. I'm back, and good morning, everybody. This is perfectly dry. It dried overnight. It's still flexible. See, you can see that it's still flexible. And one of the reasons for that is because I kept the texture paste in small bits by using smaller stencils, and therefore it can bend around those bits and bumps. But look at I don't know if you can tell today any better than last night. I guess it's hard to see on the camera, but that's got some awesome texture on it. So my next step is going to be cutting these up into ATC size. And for that, I'm going to take my ruler, and I measure every time before I do this because I want to get as many cuts out of this as I possibly can. So I'm going to go with, so 2.5 and 2.5 is 5. And 2.5, so 3. I could get 3 that way at the 2.5. And 3.5 and 3.5 is 7. So I can get 3, but I can get 9 cards out of this, which is really good. My paper cutter right here. So I'm going to start by making a nice straight edge just along here, just really, really close to this edge. There. That's good. I better move my coffee off of here before I spill it. My table gets a little wobbly when I start using this cutter on something this thick. So now I've got this nice straight edge. So what I'm going to do is, I'll do this one too. Start with a nice straight edge here. Which one was my cut edge? This one. So do a cut edge here. I want to put my straight edge along here and tuck it in nice and tight right there, because this is the straight edge on the cutter. So if I do that, then I have a nice straight edge. I'll come back down this way, it's easier. And it does cut through this, it just takes a little bit. With the texture, it's a little bit harder. There. So it did, it went through. So now I have a straight edge here and a straight edge here. So I can go this way and I can measure 2.5 inches right here. And I have to push down to make sure that that cuts through. And 2.5 inches again. It's easier to pull it towards me. There. And 2.5 inches. So all I've got for waist is this tiny little strip. Now let's go the other way. So 2.5 by 3.5 inches. Right there. That's one card. I guess I better do 3.5 inches. That's 2 cards. Oh my goodness, that's not going to be a card. This is going to end up being something else. I cut that 2.5 by 3 inches instead of 3.5. So I'm only going to get 8 out of this one. 3.5. I guess it pays, that one was a little bit harder. I guess it pays to double check. So let's make sure I do this one right. 3.5 inches. And 3.5, get down. My kitty cat's on top of my table and standing on the pile of ephemera and bits that I've got out to finish these cards. I think she wants to just dive right in there and play. So if I had have cut that other one right, I would have had this much off one edge and this off the other edge, and out of that piece of paper I would have had hardly any waste. So let's do this. 3.5 inches and 3.5 inches. And you can hear how hard that is to go through, but it still goes through as long as that's the max I do and I don't put any more texture on. But you've got to figure that this is cutting through the cardboard with gesso on both sides, the Mod Podged paper collage that's on here, plus the texture paste, which is almost like cement. So yeah, so it works good for that. So I'll throw those bits of scrap down there, and I'll keep this card here. I will cut this to 2 by 2 inches and make a little twinchy and punch a hole in it and add it as a bit of art to another project. So I'll just put that in there. So instead of 9, I got 8 cards. And the texture is amazing and the background is really nice. I can see the colored paper. I can see the stamps. So right now I can see everything on these. And the reason I cut them at this point is because now all these cards will be slightly different. So I'm going to take my first card and I'm going to add, I might do a couple with the same theme. So I might do 1, 2, let's see, 3. These cards here resemble each other the most. So I'll do a set of 3 out of those. And for my next step, I want them to stay that pretty blue, but I also want them to have some color over top of that white texture. So I am going to add some acrylic paint. And I'm going to add this tropical blue. I'm going to take my trusty old escargot dish that I use for a paint mixer and put a little bit of that blue in there. And I'll take a paintbrush, and I need a little bit of water. Start with a nice wet brush. I'm just going to pour a tiny little bit of water, a drip, just a drip in here, because I am going to use that blue as a wash. Like I said, I still want to be able to see the background through this. So I'm going to stir this up, and I'm going to make a nice wash. Now I can take this with the texture on it. There, see how pretty that is? Now I still get to see all this pretty background. I might need a little tiny bit more paint than that. Just a drop. Yeah, that's nice. There, I put a little bit more on this one too. I've got that pretty blue color that I love. I love this tropical blue. But as you can see everything through it. And how pretty that is. There. Now this is a really watered down and really water-based. So I'm just going to hit it with the heat gun and give it a dry, and I'll be right back. And there. That should be good. Yes, fine. Okay, so now I've got these gorgeous backgrounds. I think they're gorgeous. Absolutely awesome. And I need a focal point. So for my trade, there's a lot of girls in my group or women in my group. I think there's some men in there too, but I found that I trade really, really fast when I'm using a card that has butterflies or owls, birds, nature at its best. So I'm going to look at these stamps. And I really love them. That orange one would look really nice on there. That would look really nice on one too. Do I have enough of the orange? I think I do to make a set. So I'm going to use this one. I'm going to use that one last. I'm going to use this one. But I'm not going to use the whole flower arrangement, just a part of it. So I'm going to take my scissors and I am going to put this on my card like this, I think. Maybe down here. Right here, I think I'm going to put it. And then I'm going to turn my card over. And I'm going to trim that off because I am going to use this, I believe, right here with this butterfly right here. And I am going to use this one. There. Sometimes you don't need the whole sticker. Right here. There. So they'll go like that. And I am not going to just trust that the sticker is going to hold them down. So I am going to add some glue. Which glue should I use? I'm going to use my tacky glue. Original Tacky Glue by Eileen's. Sticks everything and anything. Just, yeah. Okay, do this, and I'll be right back. Okay, they're glued on. That's done, and I want to pretty these up a little bit. I've got this silver ribbon, and I've got some really pretty bling, some crystals and some flat back pearls, and I think I'm going to use some of those. There, so see how pretty they are. And I'm going to take this ribbon and cut it a little bit wider than the card and put it across the bottom. Now once again with this tacky glue, because it will hold it down so well, I am going to just put a little bead of this glue right across the bottom here. Some people will do this with hot glue or use their hot glue gun. This tacky glue for me, I think will hold it down. And I'm going to grab some clips because I don't want to sit here and hold it. And the reason people use hot glue is because this will dry instantly and it's stuck down. But I like glue for the permanent effect of it. I'm going to put a little bit right at the edge there. To make sure. There, and that will glow. Whoops, I'm going to pull that a little bit tighter. There, now that'll stay down once that's dry. So that one has a ribbon on it. And yes. The silver and the blue, like to me, especially like at Christmas time when I go to do my decorating is when I notice it the most. And I find that the silver bling goes with anything in the purple and blue shades, and that the gold bling will go with anything in the red and green shades, depending on what your decorating style is. So this one's staying down actually really good. I'm still going to clip it. Yeah, I'm going to clip it. And once you get to this point, this is all up to you. This is up to the artist. Well, the whole card is up to the artist. Artist trading cards don't have to have 3 layers of dimension on them, and they don't have to be a mixed media card even. This is just what I like to create. They can be a piece of watercolor paper with a tiny little watercolor painting on it. If you're a watercolor artist, then your trading card is going to be a little watercolor piece of art. Or if you're an acrylic painter and you can do a card this small, then that's what you're going to do. You're going to gravitate towards your art style and put whatever that art style is on your card. For me, I do mixed media art journal pages and things like that. I'm not a painter, and I'm not a sculptor. I'm none of those things. But mixed media art is still art. If you wanted to use your markers on a piece of white card, I mean, if all you wanted to do was go to the craft store and buy pre-gessoed little 2.5 by 3.5 inch cards and then draw what you draw with markers on there, that would be an artist trading card. It's that simple. So yeah, this one doesn't want to stay tight for some reason, and I want it to be nice and tight. There. I just wasn't pulling it hard enough, I think, because I want them to go down in a nice straight line. So then on this at the bottom, I'm going to put some bling. So I'm going to put a little row of 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to put a little row of pearls on one. Right on top of that. Oh, isn't that cute? That's pretty. And there's enough glue coming through that fabric to grab hold of those flat back pearls, and with the adhesive that's already on them. So I'm going to do the next one, and a little bit of sparkly bling. Bling is bling. Oh yes, that's lovely. And now eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Which one do I like the best? I'm not sure. Oh, I'll do the pearls. A little bit more classic. Yes, I'll do the pearls. There, aren't they pretty? Now I need a quote, and I love the quote, "Set me free and I will, or give me wings and I will fly. Set me free and I will soar." So I think I need some white paper. What have I got here? Oh, I know what I'm going to write it on today. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, now that these are dry and they're going to fall back off again. They're not completely dry, but they're not going to fall back off again, which is pretty cool. And I'm going to trim the overhang now on these ribbons, just like that. I could have left them wrapped around the back, but if I was going to do that, I would glue them down. I wouldn't have them just wrapped. There. And I've written down my quote. I need a sentiment on these, and this is going to be my sentiment. So I'm going to use I am going to use a pair of tweezers to glue the back of this. I'm going to use the same glue. It works fine for this. And I'm just going to put a bead of it along here and then put this down right there. Give me wings. Now I just wrote this on a little bit of white card. A little bit of white card. Give me wings and I will fly. Now, push these down. Okay, so I have glued all these sentiments on the cards, and I'm going to show you how to finish them up, or how I finish them up. This isn't, like I've said before, this is all personal preference, but I tend to outline all my little sentiment pieces. And sometimes I just write on the card something, or I don't put, glue the extra sentiment pieces on. But this is a nice light blue, and I think the sentiments for these cards are perfect for the butterflies. And I will show you when I'm all done. So one more to go around. I don't make sure these lines are straight or anything. I just kind of sketch around them. And the last thing that I'm going to do is take I have a Sharpie fine chisel, it says, but what it is the big wedge Sharpie. So I like to use it. You can use, you know, a black stamp or colored stamp and edge around these if you want to. But because I'm doing this on a little piece of cardstock that was basically just a scrap, I find that it's nice to go around, see that edge? I like to just go around that edge. And on the back of the card, I border with this as well, and I'll show you why in a minute. You don't have to do that either. That's just my personal style. One more on this one. And then this one. Be careful not to write on the front of your card. I've done that, gotten carried away and slipped with the marker and put a big black line across a card that I'd spent a lot of time to do. So my sentiment is this: give me wings and I will fly, set me free and I will soar, have a free spirit. So I like these particular sentiments for these cards. I think they're pretty. Pretty cards, and the sentiment suits them. And one of the things that I will do, and I will try to trade these now as a 3-card set for 3 cards from somebody else if they want all 3, or I can break the set up and trade to 3 different people. It really doesn't matter. It's people's personal choice when they want to trade as well. So for trading, I am going to take these white, just pieces of white scrap card again, and I've named this series Free Spirit. So I've got Free Spirit, and this is card 1 of 3, card 2 of 3, and card 3 of 3. And I'm going to take these cards and I am going to glue them on the back of my ATC card. And what that will do is when I trade them, whoever gets them will have a permanent record of who made the card, what they wanted it called, and when it was made. So it's not necessary to name your cards. Some people don't. Some people just say unnamed. And the last one, and there you have it. I've created an ATC card from start to finish. And I'll recap the steps. So what I did was I got myself a piece of cardboard. So I got my surface, what I was going to create my cards on. And for different people, that might be different things from a pre-bought and pre-treated, pre-gessoed ATC card that's already done and ready for you to start. So I did the first 2 steps myself. I got my piece of cardboard and I put gesso on both sides to prime the cardboard and allow it to take the medium. Then I put on a coat of mod or collaged papers, and you can still see some of those. See the little butterfly? That's from the stamp. So you can still see the bits of color through, and the bits, you can see some of the checkered paper, you can see some of the flowered paper. On this one, I can see some of the polka dotted paper. You can see the background. It gives them some nice depth and dimension. And after I put the collaged paper on there, I stamped it for some more visual texture. And then I put the texture paste on through a stencil for even more texture. Then I put a nice kind of a clear wash of the blue acrylic paint over top. I put my flowers and butterflies down. I put some bling across the bottom, because to me, when I do a mixed media piece, it's like a woman who goes out for a night on the town, and she's not going out without her jewelry. So I have to bling them up. This is jewelry for me on these. And the final thing that I put on there is a sentiment or quote. And then I edge my pieces, all my pieces, and put my name and my information on the back of the card. And there you have it. That's a finished ATC set. So I hope this answers some questions for some people. All I have left now to do is take some pictures of these, post it within my group. Everybody in the group has an album. We go through each other's albums, and if we see something we like, we make an offer to trade. And I am trading right now cards with people in Germany, the Netherlands, the United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, the United States, and Canada. And I believe I even have some, I believe there's even a few more places. So one of the side benefits is now I'm collecting stamps from all over the world. But, so yeah, there it is. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, give it a like, and if you want to see more, then please feel free to subscribe and wait for more videos. I've been asked what I do with my bling, so here's a little sample of that. And I've also been asked what's an ATC card, so there you have it from start to finish. Have an absolutely great day, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this. I had fun doing it, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.